आर वी लाइव? आर वी लाइव? तो अभी बज रहे हैं रात के 3:30। और गेस व्हाट, भाई को आ गया है जोश कि भाई अभी मैं मस्त। अब मैं तुम लोगों ने थोड़ा ये क्रोनोलॉजी समझा दो कि आज क्या हुआ पूरे दिन में। मैंने लास्ट स्ट्रीम किया, उसके बाद मैं थोड़ा पोकेमॉन देखने को बैठ गया, एक दो एपिसोड देखा, फिर थोड़ा वैलोरेंट खेला, फिर सोचा कि क्या करूँ, पढ़ाई करूँ क्या, फिर यूट्यूब पे टाइम पास करने लग गया टीवी पे। अ, फिर अब जाकर जब मैं टीवी देखते देखते ही बोर हो गया, मतलब दो तीन ब्लॉग्स देख लिया ब्रो। आजकल ना मुझे ट्रैवल ब्लॉग्स, लाइक अलग अलग कंट्री में लोग जाके घूमते हैं, तो द टू YouTubers that I would like to recommend is Dr. Yatri, which is my ultimate favorite, and Passenger Paramveer। उन दोनों का वीडियो भी अभी सब खत्म हो गया, तो फिर बाद में बोर होने लग गया, फिर मैं सोचा क्या करूँ। मैं सोचा सो जाता हूँ, फिर रियलाइज़ किया कि भाई नींद तो आ नहीं रही, तो इससे अच्छा मैं, और मन भी कुछ लग नहीं रहा है, मतलब मूड भी हो नहीं रहा था कि क्या करूँ, दूसरा कुछ वीडियो देखूँ, सर्च करूँ, तो मूवी भी देखने का मन नहीं हो रहा था। तो मैंने बोला अगर ज़बरदस्ती ही कुछ करना है, लाइक ज़बरदस्ती वीडियो देखना है या ज़बरदस्ती ही मूवी देखना है, तो ज़बरदस्ती पढ़ लेते हैं ना। तो हियर वी आर। तो ठीक है, वेलकम टू द स्ट्रीम। हाय, दिस इज बकचोद प्रोग्रामर ए सौरव बिस्ट, बैक एट इट अगेन। सो आज हम, दिस इज टेक्निकली डे 3, दिस इज डे 3, बस सिंस हमने जीरो से चालू किया है, दिस इज डे 2। And again, pat on the back like we always do. And yeah, let's start, shall we? All right, अरे fuck, क्या चालू हो गया? हाँ, करेक्ट ही चालू हुआ था। नो नो नो, स्विच स्विच मैंने स्किप कर दिया, मतलब छोड़, fuck it।
Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and this video will look into functions in Java. Now before we get started, I want to answer a few questions that people are asking. Some people say, hey, can you share the notes? Some people say, hey, can you share the assignments? And can you share the entire
वाह,
link to the entire playlist? Everything is listed in the description below, even the Discord link, Telegram channel, assignment, and code samples. Everything is listed in the description below. Please just check once, you will find it, everything over there. So in this video, we'll look into functions. So we'll look at a lot of things. In this video, we'll do a lot of nice questions and important concepts as well. And let's get started. So before, as
इसको
always,
मैं
before looking
बढ़ाऊँ
at
कैसे?
functions, let's look at a problem statement of why we might want to use functions. So I'm just going to create a new project here. New project, all the list of like everything, like which video we did before, all the complete list of videos, the playlist is given in the description below. So make sure you check it out, and also like, share, and subscribe. Documents, community classroom, lectures. I'm going to create another one over here. It says methods. Okay, here I'm just going to write my
Also quick update, कल सैटरडे है, तो कल आई विल बी स्ट्रीमिंग लाइक दोपहर में, फिर शाम को आई विल बी गोइंग आउट, एंड देन अगेन रात को तो है, यूजुअल है ही हमारा। तो देखते हैं, अभी आई एम थिंकिंग कि डीएसए तो चल ही रहा है, और अब जस्ट आई वाज थिंकिंग मे बी आई कुड बी रॉन्ग, क्योंकि मैं डीएसए तो कर रहा हूँ, विच इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। बट ऑन द अदर हैंड, मैं जो अभी जहाँ पे जॉब कर रहा हूँ, आई एम इनटू डेटाबेसेस, एंड like we were taught like 3 to 4 technologies: .NET, Angular, and databases. We were taught while in my training period, and at the end of the training period they asked us that what was my inclination towards. So though I mentioned that I am more into like full stack stuff, but I mean more into front end and stuff. I don't want to, and I specifically mentioned that I am not into databases. I don't like it, but still भाई को डाल दिया उसमें। अब क्या करे? तो अभी आई एम थिंकिंग दैट आई शुड स्टार्ट, लाइक मेरे को वेब डेवलपिंग घंटा कुछ आता है, ठीक है, जो एंगुलर जो मैंने ट्रेनिंग पीरियड में सीखा वो तो इट वाज लाइक, दैट पीरियड वाज लाइक ओके, वी वर गिवन टास्क लाइक टू कंप्लीट, कि हम जो पढ़ रहे हैं, जो दे गेव अस मोर और लेस 3 मंथ्स। तो मतलब अब मेरे को गांड मरवा के करना ही पड़ा यार, लेट्स बी ऑनेस्ट, करना ही पड़ा। तो वो थोड़ा बहुत एंगुलर का, बट अभी इट्स बिन लाइक व्हाट 1.5 मंथ, नो 2 मंथ्स, तो मेरा अभी भूल ही गया वो मैं क्या था एंगुलर। एंड अगेन आई वांट टू स्टार्ट वेब डेवलपमेंट अगेन फ्रॉम स्क्रैच। सो जोश जोश में एक बार ना मैंने यूडीमी का कोर्स खरीद लिया था, कुछ तो ऑफर में चल रहा था, आई थिंक 360 में कुछ मिल रहा था, तो मैंने एक वेब डेवलपमेंट का कोर्स ले लिया था वहाँ पे। तो आई विल फॉलो दैट। सो आई एम थिंकिंग टू स्ट्रीम दैट ऑल्सो, मतलब मैं भी सेग्रीगेट करूँगा टाइम, लाइक 1 hour I'll do DSA, 1 hour I'll do, like I'll just divide the time. अब the thing is कि अभी ये तो it's on YouTube and it's available for free. So I mean like I think I can like be on stream and play these videos like that only. You but on the other hand, the Udemy courses are that are paid courses. So abhi I might get into like copyright trouble for like showing the paid videos for free over YouTube. So I'm kind of avoiding that. Maybe I'll keep the audio, but I'll use my laptop screen to play that video and then do my development here to avoid any like complications. So yeah, that what is I'm what I'm thinking. So let's start. देखो भाई कितना बज रहा है, इफ यू कैन सी। मानना पड़ेगा भाई को यार, भाई कभी भी उठ के आ जाता है।
by code. Functions or methods. So in Java, we call functions as methods, because if we have basically a function that is in a class, we call it a method. And in Java, we
Correct.
put everything in classes. So in Java, we have like, we call functions method. We talk more about that later. What is method? What is function? Don't worry. So create it. Here we have our default function. We already discussed about it previously, and we write all the code over here. We have already discussed that we have put everything in classes, and this is the main function that runs. So function is nothing but a block of code. We'll look into let's look into the example right now. Imagine that the question is something like this. The question is, take an input. Okay, take an input of two numbers and print the sum. Okay, take input of two numbers and print the sum. Okay, that's the question. So we can try to solve this. You can say scanner input is equal to new scanner system.in. Okay, I can print a message over here like enter number 1. Okay, enter the first number, then the person will input the first number. Then I can say enter second number, enter number 2, and int number 2 is going to be equal to int dot next int. Then I can say int sum is equal to number 1 plus number 2. Okay, and then I can say print sum. I can say something like the sum is equal to sum. All right, very simple stuff. Let's run this. Number 1 is 10, number 2 is let's say 20, sum is 30. Okay, let me remove a new line from here. Okay, now that is very simple. Everyone knows how we do this. The next question is something like this. The next question is, or if I just define it somewhere else, I can say, yeah, I can define it separately as well. Num1, comma, num2, comma, sum. So now the values are defined and I can just remove the definition from here. Okay, so I just defined the value above and here I'm just updating it. So now the next question is the person who gave the question. Now that person says that, hey, do this entire thing 10 times. After it displays the sum, you have to ask for the two numbers again, display the sum again. Do this 10 times. So you will be like, okay, I can do it something like this. 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time, 5 time, 6 time, 7 time, 8 time, 9 time, and 10 time. Let's say the person asked you to do this 100 times. Would you copy paste it 100 times? That would be very inefficient. Another problem you may face over here is, let's say the person asks you to change the wordings of this. So then you would have to change the wording of this, 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 this. This code is dry. The dry format. Dry means don't repeat yourself. In coding world, dry means don't repeat yourself. So basically, this is not good. Imagine if the person asked to take the input 1000 times. Would you copy paste this 1000 times? So this repeated code, if there was a way to bundle this code in some sort of a format and use that format of many places, we can use functions or methods for this. So methods and functions, like Java, same thing. When we have any function in a class, that is known as a method. So in Java, we can call functions methods. So basically, if we can put this entire thing in a method, we can use that method again and again. Let's try to do this. Sum, I'll call it a sum. I can say public static void main. I'm going to create a method over here. Okay, I'm going to say method has this definition. Okay, access modifier. This is something we'll look in object-oriented programming. Okay, so don't worry about it. We'll look into it in object-oriented programming. So here the access modifier, and then we have return type, and then we have the name, then we have brackets, and then I have the return statement, and then we have the over here we have the body of the function. For example, let me just remove the access modifier for now. Let's say I'm just taking a simple function. Okay, this is something we'll discuss in object-oriented programming. So here I'm just going to make a simple function that will be like this thing. Okay, this particular thing. So here it needs to, okay, I can just say void. You can call it a name as, so basically return type, let's say I'm giving void. Sum is the name of the function. I can give it anything. Then I'm just not passing anything over here. I'm just adding some braces over here because of the syntax. And here in the body, I will write this thing. Copy this thing. Write this thing over here. Have to initialize it. Entire thing I put it over here. Now I can call this sum function. I can call it like this. Okay, it's showing me an error because of it not being static. So here I'm just going to write static over here. And the reason for this I'll explain in object-oriented programming. Okay, if you want to see the error message that you're getting, it's saying non-static method sum cannot be referenced from a static context. Okay, so this is a static. Okay, this is a static method. Static we previously talked about already, like the human example we talked about. Human population, that is static, means it does not depend on the object. So anything you want to use in static, that also has to be static, is basically what it's saying. Okay, so here I'm going to add static over here. Why these things are happening, what is static internally and everything, how we can work with non-static functions and everything, we'll discuss it in later on. Okay, so here let me just refresh and like run this. So it's just going to run this function. Enter number 1, 20, number 2 is 30, sum is 50. How is it working? We all know main function is the first function that is going to run. So basically it's going to run this one, and then it's going to start, hey, run the sum method. The sum method is over here. It's just going to run it line by line. You can call it many times you want. You don't have to copy the entire code base again and again. Any change you make in this code base will be resulting in all the function calls. So this is just writing the name of the function, and this is calling the function. You call the function via brackets. You can also pass things in this bracket that is known as parameters, that will, like arguments, which we'll talk more about later. For example, main function has this argument. We can also add arguments over here. But let's look at the simple function for now. Let's say even more simple function you want to look at, display or greeting. This is just a simple function that displays hello world. Okay, so I'm just going to say public static void main, and I'm going to create a method called static. It is just displaying to me something. We don't worry about what this return type basically means. Return type basically means that, okay, this is a good important point. Let's talk about return type. What is return type? So let's talk about the definition. Return type basically means when you call the function, what is the value of this line, this particular function call going to be? When the function finishes execution, this particular thing that I have highlighted is going to have some value. First point. When the function call is finished, so you call the sum function over here, it will call it like this and like this and like this, line by line, it's going to call it. When the function finishes its call, the entire thing is run, and it comes out of here again. This particular thing that I have highlighted, the function call, it is known as a function call. It will have some value, first point. Second point, the value is actually going to be whatever you return in this function. Okay, so that is the return type. Let's see. So basically here I'm saying that I just want to display something. I don't want to return anything. So if you don't want to return anything, you write void. Then I'm just going to give the function name as greeting or whatever. I'm just going to say print hello world. And then I'm just going to say void. Then I'm just going to say print hello world. And then I'm just going to say print. 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 Then I'm just Now I'm going to call this function over here, greeting. It's just going to print hello world. Okay, so I call this method, it's just saying hello world, and that's it.
What the fuck?
Let's look at a few examples.
पानी लेकर तो
in which we might want to return a value. So let's say you want to actually get the value of the sum and not just print it. Okay, so here you can do something like this. I can say static. Now the return type will change. So the question is return the value. Return the value. And integer plus integer gives me what? Integer. Hence now the return value is not going to be void. It's going to be integer because I'm going to return an integer. Sum2. I'm just giving a random name. Okay, I can say copy this entire thing. Here instead of displaying this, I'm going to return the sum. I hope that makes sense. So basically I'm returning sum. Sum is of type integer. Hence I have the return type as type integer. It's saying enter number 1, enter number 2, and let's say I do 20 and 40. So the sum value will be 20 plus 40, 60. It's going to return 60. Means this thing will return a value of 60, which is going to be stored in this reference variable. Hence the value of answer is going to be 60. And when I print answer, it will show me 60. Simple stuff. Okay. There's one more thing. Return basically means this function will end. If I am putting a return value over here, it means function over. You know, that Rahul Gandhi meme, khatam, you know, tata, bye bye. So that is what's happening over here. In any function or method, whenever the return statement is hit, it basically mean, okay, your work here is done, just come out of here. Okay, function call is over. Whatever return value was there, just, you know, save it in whatever you're saving it. Meaning if I put anything outside this, let's say I say this will never execute. It's also giving me an error. It's saying this statement will never be reachable, unreachable statement. Because I'm returning the function value over here. Whenever return hits, it means khatam. That means khatam basically means, like in Hindi, it means done, over. No more thing is happening right now. It will come out of here. Nothing will execute. That is what is meant by like the return statement as well.
Correct.
I'm just going to comment this out. Okay, return means function over. All right, that is why return statements are at the end. Okay, so that was like the basics of it, and I hope the definition is clear. Let's try to give some other example. Let's say I take some other example like float example or string example. Let's return a string example. Here we will return a string, public static void main. I'm going to say something like, let's create a function static. I'm going to return a string, so I'm going to have a string data type as a return type. I'm going to say greet. Okay, not passing anything over here. This is the syntax. I think by now you might be aware of the syntax, and it's also giving me an error over here. It's saying you are asking it to return a string, but you are not returning anything, so error. That will also give an error. By the way, if for the return types you have specified something as a return type, you have to return it. Otherwise it will give error. Here if I return something like an integer, if I return, let's say 23, it will give an error. It's like, hey, you are asking as a return type of a string, but you are returning an integer. Required type was string and you are returning integer. That is not going to work. Either make it string or either make this integer. Okay, this will work. We want to return a string. So let's say I just return a greeting. I can make some greeting over here. I can say string greeting is equal to something like how are you. Okay, and I'm just returning that greeting. When I run greet over here, this will actually have a value of string type when I run this function. So I can store it in a string type. String message is equal to something like this. Print message. Message is going to be what? Again, I know I told you previously as well. Main is the first method that is run. So main will run, then it will say, okay, the message value is actually whatever we are returning from greet. Hence it will jump inside greet and return this value. This value will then be stored in message, and then it will print the message. Let's try to debug it and see line by line how these things are working. Okay. I accidentally debugged something else, the previous example. Okay, so here you're saying it's over here. And over here, now it's saying the message value is actually whatever value I'm getting from greet. Hence, it would have to go inside greet. Now it's inside greet. Inside greet, it's saying, okay, return the greeting value. Return the greeting value, how are you? Hence, this will be equal to how are you, and this value is actually being stored in message. So the value of message will be whatever value we are returning here in the function call. So value of message is going to be how are you? Message is equal to how are you? Print how are you? End the program. That's it. Run this, it will print how are you? How are you? Okay, let's look at the main part. So we already talked about we already talked about the what is the return type meaning. We already talked about what is name. Here we put arguments. We'll talk more about arguments in a while. We also talked about return statement. This statement type and this return type has to be same. We also talked about the body. In body you can put everything. Now let's just talk about arguments. So let's say you don't want to add scanner here again and again. Let's say you want to pass the value of the numbers when you are calling the function. Okay. Pass the value of numbers when you are calling the method in main. How do we do that? We do that via parameters. We can add some parameters over here. So here we have two parameters, number 1 and number 2. So we can just say something like, we can say something like static, return type will be int, sum3, it's taking two values, int a and int b. The name does not matter, you can put any name. And here I'm just going to say int sum is equal to a plus b and return sum. Now when I call sum3, I can say int answer is equal to sum3, I'm calling it. It's giving me an error. It's like, hey, in sum3 it's actually asking for two values. You are not providing me anything. Provide something. So I'm saying, okay, from a I can provide, let's say 20. For b I can provide 30. So here it's saying value of a is provided as 20, b is 30. In IntelliJ IDEA, if you're seeing this gray color thing, a colon, b colon, this is just for highlighting purpose. It is not a part of the code base. It's a feature of IntelliJ IDEA. So please do not write it like this. You might be like, hey, IntelliJ IDEA was writing it. It's just for your reference only. Internally, how it's working is you have to pass it in the order of declaration. If a is passed first, b is passed second, then whatever value you pass as first, that will be replaced with a. Whatever value you pass at second, that will be replaced with b. So when this function is actually called, all the values in this method body, a will be replaced with whatever is passed at this position, b will be replaced with whatever has been passed at this position. So a will be replaced with 20, b will be replaced with 30. Okay, and then we will do 20 plus 30, return 50. Let's try to print the answer. It will print me 50. Cool. We will see how these things are passing internally and what memory management and all these things are happening. We'll look more into in just a little bit. Okay, in greeting also you can do something like this. Let's say you want to pass the greeting. Okay, so you can say something like string example. I can take it in a string example. I can say something like string message is equal to, or personalized message is equal to greeting or my greet or something like that, and I'm going to have to create my greet. So basically I can say by the way, in IntelliJ IDEA, we already talked about alt enter and command enter, like option enter. So here IntelliJ IDEA is so smart, it knows that this function will return a string type because I have assigned it to a string type. So I can do alt enter create, so it will automatically create it. Automatically create it for me. Don't need this right now, we'll discuss that in oops. Automatically created the body string type. I can say return, or I can say something like string message is equal to, I can pass a greeting over here. I can say string greet. Okay, and then I can say message is equal to something like this, hello greet, or I can just say name over here. Okay, and then I'm just going to say return the message. So here it's saying, hey, you are asking for a name or something in string format and you're not providing me anything. I'm like, okay, Kunal Kushwaha. Let's try to run this. Let's try to print this. It's going to say, it's going to replace the name with Kunal Kushwaha. Message will be equal to hello Kunal Kushwaha. Hello Kunal Kushwaha will return. And this personalized will actually contain the value hello Kunal Kushwaha. String name. My name is Kunal. Hello Kunal. This can be not working internally. First 2010. Okay, value. We are not returning anything. Okay, which is 10. So a is 20, b is 10. A is 20, B is 10. Okay, this is a simple code to swap two numbers. Okay, I hope you are able to understand that. Now,
ठीक है, टू नंबर्स को स्वैप करते हैं, दैट इज वेरी सिंपल. ब्लैक बोर्ड, वाइट बोर्ड ऑनलाइन. ओके, ये क्या है? टेम्पलेट्स, फ्लो चार्ट इज ओनली मस्त. ठीक है, नहीं चाहिए वैसे, नहीं चाहिए, पीछे है. ट्यूटोरियल्स पॉइंट का वाइट बोर्ड कैसा है? हाँ, वर्क्स फॉर अस. फ्री भी है ये, पैसा वैसा मांग ले तो. पैसा है नहीं अपन के पास, पैसा कमाने के लिए कर रहे हैं अपन इतना सब. अब इसका टेम्पलेट में साला नॉर्मल कैसा आएगा? ग्रेट. हाँ, हाँ, ये सब और ये सब को कर देता हूँ मैं डिलीट. ऑल राइट. सो सपोज हमको क्या करना है, स्वैप दो नंबर को स्वैप करना है. जैसे सपोज वी हैव अभी इसका आह, अभी इसका इसका एन. ठीक है, अभी इधर एन दबाएंगे तो नोट्स आ गया. अरे बढ़िया भाई, बढ़िया है यार ये. एनीवे, तो पेन, हाइलाइटर, स्मार्ट ड्राइंग, इरेजर. इरेजर के लिए ई. इसका साइज थोड़ा बढ़ा देते हैं भाई. ओ, ये क्या है दोस्त? ऑलराइट, सो पी फॉर पेन, ई फॉर इरेजर. ग्रेट. हाँ, तो अगर ई दबा दे डायरेक्ट तो इरेजर आ गया ब्रो, क्रेजी. ठीक है, इसको भी हम, ये सिलेक्ट भी है, इसको भी हम कर देते हैं डिलीट. ठीक है, तो लेट्स से कि यहाँ पे एक है ए जिसके अंदर देते हैं टू, और एक है बी जिसके अंदर हो गया थ्री. लेट्स गेट रीड ऑफ दिस. तो बेसिकली हमको क्या करना है, स्वैप कर देना है ये दो नंबर को एक दूसरे के साथ. मतलब ए के अंदर वैल्यू थ्री जाना चाहिए, बी और ये ए का वैल्यू इधर आ जाना चाहिए. तो रिजल्ट शुड बी a is equals to 3, b is equals to 2. Now how do we do it? तो पहला अप्रोच ये आता है तुम्हारे मन में कि a इक्वल्स टू b कर देते हैं और b इक्वल्स टू a कर देते हैं, बट दिस वुड बी इनकरेक्ट, क्योंकि a b असाइन हो जा रहा है a पे. मतलब a का वैल्यू अभी क्या हो गया है, 3 हो गया है. अब b का वैल्यू को हम a असाइन करें, बट a तो 3 हो गया, तो 3 हो गया, तो दोनों 3 3 हो गया. सो दैट इज इनकरेक्ट. सो व्हाट वी कैन डू इज, ठीक है, तो हमारे पास एक और अप्रोच है. ठीक है, सपोज अपने पास सब, लेट्स कंसीडर यार, लेट्स थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ बकेट. लाइक वी हैव टू बकेट्स. ठीक है, दिस इज ए बकेट, यहाँ पे टू है, यहाँ पे थ्री है. और लेट्स से, ओके, पहले इरेजर कर लेते हैं हम, इसको भगा देते हैं, इसको भी भगा देते हैं. ऑलराइट, और लेट्स से कि हमारे पास एक और बकेट है जिसको हम दे देंगे टेम्प. नाम दे देंगे द टी शॉर्ट में. ये बी हो गया, ये ए हो गया, करेक्ट. अब इसमें सिलेक्ट है वी. अब मैं इसको सिलेक्ट कर सकता हूँ, परफेक्ट. ठीक है, तो अभी हम क्या करेंगे, पहले इसको हम रख देंगे टेम्प में. ठीक है, ए को रख दिया टेम्प. मतलब बेसिकली हम क्या लिख रहे हैं कि टी इज इक्वल्स टू ए, करेक्ट. फिर हम क्या करेंगे कि बी के अंदर जो वैल्यू था वो उठा के ए पे रख देंगे. तो बेसिकली हम कर रहे हैं ए इक्वल्स टू बी, अब बी में तो ये आ गया, बी में एक्चुअली 3 है। इट इज नॉट लाइक बी खाली हो गया है, बी में है, बट वी विल ओवरराइट इट। लाइक ए के अंदर भी पहले 2 था, इट डज नॉट मीन दैट हमने अगर ये टी को असाइन कर दिया है तो ए के अंदर 3 नहीं है। अब हम क्या करेंगे, वापस से टी का वैल्यू उठा के बी में रख देंगे, हम हो गया स्वैप। करेक्ट। तो हमने लास्ट स्टेप क्या किया, बी के अंदर कुछ था नहीं तो हम रख देंगे बी इज इक्वल्स टू टी। मेक सेंस। चलो कोड कर लेते हैं फट से। ठीक है, अभी ये क्लोज कर दो। हम एक और बना लेते हैं, जावा पैकेज फंक्शंस। ठीक है, अभी इसको बंद कर दो भाई। फंक्शंस के अंदर नहीं, वो क्लास। अब क्लास का नाम क्या दे, स्वैप नंबर्स। ऑलराइट, पब्लिक स्टैटिक वॉइड मेन। फक 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 फक, स्टैटिक वॉइड मेन। ओके, अब हम कर देते हैं नम ए, इंट ए इज इक्वल्स टू 2, int b इज इक्वल्स टू 3। ये भाई मेरे कीबोर्ड के अंदर क्या क्या घुस चुका है वे, एक बार ये सब निकाल के क्लीन करना पड़ेगा। ठीक है, और एक, ठीक है, और एक फंक्शन बना देते हैं बेसिकली कि स्वैप ये सब पूरा ही हटा देता हूँ, कंट्रोल डब्ल्यू। ओके, सो स्टैटिक क्या रिटर्न करेगा, कुछ भी नहीं रिटर्न करेगा। तो वॉइड, वॉइड में हमने कुछ भी नहीं करेगा। अभी नाम क्या दें हम, स्वैप। ठीक है, ये फंक्शन बन गया। ऑलराइट, अब हम क्या करेंगे, एक टेम्प लेंगे, इन टेम्प इज इक्वल्स टू ए कर देते हैं। ठीक है, बट इसके अंदर पैरामीटर्स देते हैं, इंट ए, इंट बी। ये क्या है, ये क्या है, क्या स्क्विकली क्यों दे रहा है। कहाँ, यहाँ, व्हाट, वेयर, यही करता है ना भाई। हम्म, करेक्ट, यही तो किया है मैंने, क्या किया है और। स्टैटिक वॉइड स्वैप, ये भी क्यों दिखा रहा है, temp is never used, local value temp is redundant, यूज तो हो रहा है। int, अच्छा, रिटर्न स्टेटमेंट तो कुछ है ही नहीं, a इक्वल्स टू b कर देंगे, a इज इक्वल्स टू temp कर देते हैं, पहले a का वैल्यू डाल दिया temp में। ठीक है, करेक्ट। फिर हम डाल देते हैं a के जगह पे b, और फिर उल्टा लिख दिया मैंने, temp के जगह पे temp के अंदर डाल देते हैं a का वैल्यू। नहीं, वो तो हमने पहले कर चुका है ना, हमने temp क्रिएट किया इंटीजर temp, उसके अंदर हमने a का वैल्यू डाल दिया, फिर ए के अंदर बी डालते हैं, देन बी के अंदर टेम्प डाल देते हैं, खत्म। नाउ व्हाई इट इज शोइंग दिस? ठीक है, अब यहाँ पे हम स्वैप कॉल कर देते हैं, या हम यहाँ पे हम स्वैप कॉल कर देते हैं, ठीक है, और एंटर। इसमें कुछ नहीं दिखा रहा, इसमें क्यों कुछ नहीं दिखा रहा? Let's paste it about it. ये स्क्विगली क्यों दिखा रहा है? ये नीचे, अच्छा, इट शुड बी आउट ऑफ द मेन फंक्शन क्या? अब इसके अंदर ए कॉमा बी, मत कर भाई, नहीं यूज करना है, ठीक है। ओ, प्रिंट सी आउट, एस आउट, ऐसा क्यों दिखा रहा है भाई? स्वैप क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
Going to swap the value. I made a function called a method called swap. It takes a and b, does the same thing. A is passed over here, b is passed over here, and then I'm going to check whether the actually value swapped or not. Did a become 20 and b become 10 or not? Pause this video, think about it, and now let's look at the answer. It did not swap it. It did not swap it. How is it
Okay.
happening? What is happening? How is it working? Let's see. Okay, let me try one more thing. Let me show you some other thing. So let's say I create another file, let's say some.
पहले मेरा एक डाउट था, वो मैं क्लियर कर देता हूँ। चैट जीपीटी ओपन कर लेते हैं भाई, ठीक है। फंक्शंस, can we define functions inside main in Java? Method in Java. No, you can't declare a method inside another method. Okay, you can't declare a method inside if you look closer to your just in where formatting, the main method ends before the declared. Okay. क्या पूछना लगता है again हम
something like, I say something like string name is equal to Kunal Kushwaha. Okay, let's try something else. Then I'm going to say change name. I'm going to pass name over here. Okay, then I'm going to print name, and change name basically just changes the name. So basically static void change name string name. I'm going to say name is equal to now Rahul Rana. So is it going to change this name to Rahul Rana? It says string name is equal to Kunal, change name, this name will be passed over here. And here I'm saying in the function, okay, then the function will run. Kunal Kushwaha is passed, is saying now name is equal to Rahul Rana. Now I print it out. Is it going to change the name value to Rahul Rana? It won't.
why?
For this, we have to understand how these values are actually being passed. That is an important concept. Let's look into that. Now, before we move on to explaining how this thing is working, there's one thing I want to share with you. So in the string example,
Oh fuck!
over
Oh
here,
fuck! Wait. ये तो एग्जिस्ट करता ही नहीं है इधर, तो दिस कैसे होगा?
let's say I create another new example. Let's say some passing example. Okay. All right. So I can say string name is equal to something, Kunal Kushwaha, and then I'm just going to say call the greet method that takes a name. Okay, and I'm just going to create this greet method, void greet name and whatever. So I believe I shared about this like briefly previously as well. But the important point note over here is that this name, NAME, and this name does not have to be like the same format. This can be anything like Naam. Okay, name and Naam. And here I'm just going to say print Naam. Still, it's going to do the same thing which it was doing when I passed name over here. When the name of this actually was name only. Let's run this. Kunal Kushwaha. So this values particular like the value name is NAME, and here I'm passing NAME. So Kunal Kushwaha is being passed over here in this method. Now internally what is happening is that when we call this, when this method is called, Kunal Kushwaha that is passed over here, that will be replaced by Naam. This Naam does not care what this particular name is. It can be either Chacha. Pass Chacha over here. Why did I write my name here then? Iron Man. Okay. So this can be anything. So when I pass Chacha over here, Iron Man will be passed. Internally, this Naam value will contain the value Iron Man. Let's see how this is working internally with a diagram. So how this is working internally is something like this. So we have in our main function, in the main function we have something like this, the public static void main, and in this we have something like name is equal to Kunal. Okay, and then I'm saying greeting, pass name over here, and that's it. Now in the greet method, it is taking a name and it is printing that name. Basically, sorry, it's not taking name. Then the value I took over here, the format I used over here was Naam. It's printing the Naam. So this is how it's working internally. In the main function, this is an object. Okay, object. We know this is an object. Internally, it's something like this. This is in the heap memory. Kunal, and name is pointing to this. Very important point. When name is passed in this method, the value is passed. Okay, actually the value is passed. Okay, actually the value of the reference variable is passed. In Java, there is no particular thing known as pass by reference. Okay, in Java, there is only pass by value. So here, actually what is happening is that this is a reference variable. A copy of the value of this reference variable, copy of a value of this reference variable is passed over here. So this is a copy, naam. So naam is basically going to have is another reference variable, which is a copy of this. And since this is a copy of this, it's going to point towards the same object. Okay. So that is how it's working internally. When we pass something in the function, in Java, there is no pass by reference. It's only pass by value. And in this case, it's only passing the value of that reference, a copy of that reference. Okay. So here in the main, we were accessing this object by name. Here we are accessing this object by another variable named naam. Both of these reference variables are pointing towards the same object. Now the previous example that we took that had something like this. This example that was here, swap one. So here you were like change name. So like name passed over here. If I put naam over here, does not really matter. You can put naam over here. So here what is happening? Why did this not get changed? So we have something like name is equal to Kunal Kushwaha. Change name. So name will be passed over here. Naam's value is going to be Kunal Kushwaha. It's saying naam is equal to Rahul Rana, but naam is actually not being changed. Why is it not being changed? Let's see. So basically in my public static void main, I have a name which is equal to, let's say, Kunal. Then I'm saying change name, passing name over here. And when I'm printing name, it's actually showing me Kunal only. Okay, it's showing me Kunal only. In change, what are we doing? In change, basically we are taking a naam and we are saying naam is equal to Rahul Rana. So how is it working internally? We already saw nothing new. Name is going to be pointing to this object of Kunal. Naam is also going to be pointing to the same object because this is a copy of this reference variable. What is happening in this line? Naam is equal to Rahul. A new object is being created. Naam is now pointing to Rahul. Did this change the original name? Did this reference variable? What naam is equal to Rahul Rana. So how is it working internally? We already saw nothing new. Name is going to be pointing to this object of Kunal. Naam is also going to be pointing to the same object because this is a copy of this reference variable. What is happening in this line? Naam is equal to Rahul. A new object is being created. Naam is now pointing to Rahul. Did this change the original name? Did this change to what the original name was pointing to? No. Hence, when I print name again, when I print name again over here, it's going to print Kunal. Very simple stuff. Okay, I'm telling it again and again. No pass by reference in Java, only pass by value. And in terms of like objects and stuff, so that are like, let's say, non-primitives, the references copy is passed. So this, basically this and this thing, the parameters, both are going to be pointing to the same object. This is also true that any change made via this reference variable to the will also be reflected in the main object. Now in this case, you may be saying, hey Kunal, why did it not reflect in this then? Because here you are not changing the object, you are creating a new object. Not changing, creating regarding strings. Strings are immutable, means you cannot change those for like and this we will go more in detail regarding strings. Strings are immutable, means and this we will go more in detail in new object. And this we will go more in detail regarding strings. Strings are immutable, means you cannot change those for like security reasons. So here you might be saying, hey Kunal, you are saying that these two are pointing to the same object. Hence, if I want to make a change via naam, it should also change the original object. That is true. But here we are not changing the original object. We are creating a new object and assigning that to naam. I will show you an example in this video only of changing that object and how it will result in the original change. But for now, I believe you are able to understand this particular thing. Also, one more thing I want to show you is basically
how would life become good if you can create this freedom lifestyle? Check out this. Right now we're in Bali with all of these beautiful people out here and all of this beautiful stuffs. Now, how did this happen? This happened because 2 years back I took a decision and I want you to change
ये कांडू
my life, my family's life, and everything. A
भाई
normal person in India, he lives for 70 years. He goes on normal, like home to office or home to school, home to college, like on the loans and all the stuffs, and they have to
सब हंस रहा है
live
भाई
like this
पीछे.
forever. What if life could become if you can take a vacation like this every single week in your life? Life would become good, right? So I always thought that how can I create this type of lifestyle? See, like for example, if I have to go and do webinars, I cannot go ahead and do this. If I have to go ahead and do other stuff, I cannot do all of these things. After years of hard work and years of learning from all the international experts, I figured out a system. And this system has
Okay.
created millionaires all across India. Right now, 491 plus Indians are traveling all across the world and are living their dream lifestyle with a simple mobile phone and a social media. Imagine I'm here, I can make money like this. Would you like to know, like, if I'm still staying in Bali, how can I make money with just a use of a mobile phone and social media and an internet? If you have this three, and if you have the power to leverage AI tools, then you can make 3 lakhs every single month of your life, my friend. It's very simple. If you know how to use AI, you have a social media account and you have a mobile phone, both. You are living in the best times in the world, you can simply create 3 lakhs per month and live this dream lifestyle. Click on the link below if you want to create this dream lifestyle for you and your family, and I would love to show you in a 15-minute free training on how you can create this dream lifestyle for you and your family by just investing an AI tool and basically social media. It's absolutely free. I've kept it for a short time because I'm enjoying the vacation. So click on the link. I want to see you inside. Thank you. Have a great day.
This thing. So here naam is in this scope only. Naam, you cannot use it outside. I can't do something like this. Print naam. Giving me error. It's saying naam is not defined. Because naam is only available in this function, which is the scope of that function. Okay, so this is known as scoping. We'll go more in detail in scoping, but this is very simple stuff that if you want to access any variables or anything that are available in this function, you can only access those in this function only. You can't do it outside this function, like print something like in some other function in swap, maybe for example. You can't do something like print naam. Naam is only available over here, hence you can only access it over here. This particular thing, naam, or if I say int a is equal to 10, everything is like available in this section only. Int b is equal to 30 or 20, and here if you write int a is equal to 50 or 40, a is already defined, that's why it's giving an error, but let's say num. Okay, so you're adding num over here, you can add the same name over here as well. It will not give you an error like num is defined twice. No, because for this, num is defined in this function scope, the main scope, and for this num, it's only defined in the change name scope. Okay, no one outside change name can access num or all the other variables in it. Same thing goes for this, all the variables that are in the parameter. This is known as scoping. You cannot access scoping. In short, you cannot access this outside this function. Okay, we'll look more into scoping later on. But there's one more example we were having is why did it not swap this thing? Let's look into it. Why did it not swap? So primitives, it's actually just passing the value. Okay, so these are two things you have to remember. Primitives, like int, short, char, byte, or whatever. For it's just passed by value. For objects and references also it's passed by value only. But for this it's actually like just passing value. Okay, and for your objects and references, so objects and stuff, it's actually passing value only, but passing value of the reference variable. So both of those reference variable like name and naam pointing to the same object. Very important, and I have multiple times mentioned it. So let's look into this example, what is happening. So here basically I'm saying in public static void main, I have a and b, a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20. I'm saying swap a and b. It will not swap. So basically in the swap method, we will put something like, let's say number 1 comma number 2. And here I have saying, let's say a is pointing to 10, b is pointing to 20. Similarly, num1 will be pointing to, since the primitives only value will be passed. So num1 will be pointing to say 10, and num2 will be also have something like 20. Value is passed. Okay, here the value is passed. So that is pretty much about it. And over here also, if it's something like this as well, okay, if it's something like this as well, that totally depends on like the Java implement. So if you're saying like something like a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 10, this is up to Java. Like if it want to create new object, which is like heap memory and stuff, some optimization might be there. But here the value is being passed, and when we do something like temp is equal to num1. So in this function's scope, I'm just going to remove this thing. So in this function's scope, what is happening is temp is now having a value of 10 and num2 is going to have a value of what? Num1. So num2 is basically going to be equal to what? 10. Sorry, not 10. Sorry, it's actually num1 is equal to num2. Yeah.
होता है भाई, इसके साथ भी होता
So
है।
num1
इसके
is
साथ भी
equal
होता
to
है भाई, मेरे साथ भी हो रहेगा वो।
num2. So num1 is actually going to have a value of 20. So here num1 is having a value of 20. Let me see if this is visible. Okay, and here then num2 has a value of temp. So num2 has a value of temp, which is 10. So even though in this function scope these are swapped, but are the original a and b swapped?
No.
No. Very simple. In both the cases, like same thing, pass by value, pass by value. One example I want to give you now is that of objects and references. So these are for primitive data types. For primitive data types, it's only going to do pass by value. For objects and references, for complex data types, pass by value of that reference variable. So both the reference variable pointing to the same object. If you make a change via one reference variable, original one will be changed. Let's look into an example in which the original value is changed. That will make things much more clearer. Okay, so let's look at an example in which, let's say we take an example, change value example. Okay, public static void main. So I can say something like, I'll create an array over here because I want to show you if the original value of the object is being changed. Create an array. We will look arrays in the next lectures. Okay, so for now, array is just a collection of, let's say if I'm making an integer array, so it's a collection of numbers only. Okay, nothing else. Just a data structure, collection of numbers. String is a data structure which is a collector of letters and characters. Array is a data structure, let's say collection of integers or numbers or whatever. So I can create an array like this: 1, 3, 4, 2, 45, 6. Random numbers. Okay, we will go into details of this later on. But what I want to show you is if I create a method over here that says, static change, no return type, change, and I pass an array over here. So something like I say nums. Okay, passing an array over here. I'm saying the 0th value of nums should be 99. And here I'm going to call this function change arr. Then I'm going to say print arrays.toString arr. Basically, toString is just printing this. Don't worry, we will go in detail of this. Okay, toString is another method. You can see public static string toString. It just takes an integer array and returns the string value of it. So now you might be able to understand the string builder and everything. We'll look into it later on. It's nothing much, but I believe you know that much Java now that you are able to understand this code. Just simple for loop and stuff only. Okay, the question to you all is this going to change the original array or not? Let's see. Let me get my iPad here. Let me show you how this is working internally, then we'll run it. So basically, original array is pointing to something happening like this. So original array arr has an object pointing to 1, 3, 2, 45, and 6. When I pass this in a function, I know this is in a reference and object, so reference copy will be passed. Another reference will contain the same object. So in this case, nums pointing to the same object. This is not passed by reference. It's passed by the copy of the value of the reference. Okay, big difference. It's making a copy of this. So here it's saying in function, it says nums of 0 is equal to 99. By the way, arrays are displayed by indices: 0th index, 1st index, 2nd index, 3rd index, 4th index. So it's saying the 0th index should be changed to 99. Okay, via nums. Is it going to be changed for array as well? Yes, pointing towards the same object. Some objects was modified by nums. Original object is also modified. If Kunal is spending money, baby is spending money, son or brother is spending money, original object is spending money. First lecture, we did this, memory management. Okay, first or second lecture, I don't remember. Check out the links in the description of the playlist. Let's try to run this.
देखना पड़ेगा दोस्त।
बिल्कुल ट्रेंड टिकट है सर।
Will the original ARR be changed? Yes, changed. Don't have this doubt that, hey Kunal, why is string not being changed over here? Because we are not modifying the string. Here we are modifying the array. Here we are not modifying the string. We are creating a new object. Also, you cannot modify strings. Strings are like final classes. So it's like final. You cannot modify it because for security reasons, they are immutable. We'll talk more about this later on. So here you can see, basically, In short, if you make a change to the object via this reference variable, same object will be changed. I hope that makes things clear. Now let's look into the next thing, which is known as scoping. Okay, so in short, when an object's reference, like when the object's reference,
ओके
this reference,
तो
when this
अगर
reference
मुझे
is passed
ये
to
करना
this
था
parameter, actually the reference itself is passed by call by value, because the value that is being passed refers to the object. Okay, so this nums will be another like value of this reference variable pointing to the object. Okay, so it's actually call by value. It's not call by reference. In Java, we do not have pointers. We do not get the address or anything in Java. Okay, cool. Let's look into scoping now. So now we are starting with another important concept known as scoping. What is scoping? What do we mean by scope? Scope basically means where we can access our variables. Index, second index. The value that is being passed refers to a concept known as scoping. What is scoping? What do we nums will be another this reference.
तो
When this
अगर
reference is
मुझे
passed
ये
to
करना
this
था
parameter, actually the reference to reference variable, we do not have value that is being passed refers to basically mean by scope. Scope basically means where we can access our variables.
क्रेजी भाई ड्रॉप फ्रेम जिसके पहले आया था ब्रो ऑलराइट
Okay, so for example, if I have something like int a is equal to 10, int b is equal to 20, and here I create another function like static void random function or whatever. Here if I try to print a, it will not allow me. It's saying, hey, you cannot, this function does not know that a exists in some other function. Only you can access a in this function only, the main function only. Okay, similarly if I create num equal to 67, okay, you can access num over here, you can say print num or whatever. You can't access num over here. Okay, this is the first scope known as the function scope. So if you define any variables or anything in a function, you can only access those inside the function. This also holds true for all the arguments, int marks or something. If you try to print marks over here, you will not be able to. You can print it over here, you can do anything you want in this function with marks, because marks has a scope in this, but scope basically means you can only access these variables inside this function. Very simple language. Okay, you cannot access it outside. So in the previous example, in the swap example, here you can see that nothing changed because the real values didn't change, because this is not passing the reference of a and b, it's actually passing the values of a and b, and because the scope of the function swap will be defined in the swap function only. So these values, if you can say num1 and num2, so basically num1, similarly the same thing we did previously. Okay, it does not really matter if we change the names to whatever. So this num1 and num2, whatever change you make will only be this change. This change will only be valid in this function scope only, and etc. And it's not, but it's actually like I here and very simple as well. Okay, so here if I write a block code, so I can say something like let's say int a is equal to 78. This is giving me an error. This is giving me an error. It's saying a is already initialized. Okay, so basically if you initialize something int a, you cannot do this again. If you write a is equal to 90, error. You can change the value like this, but you cannot initialize the same reference variable again. Okay, very important point. So here it's saying that a is initialized in its block, and this block is actually inside this function, So this is the reason it's saying that it's giving you an error, but you can definitely modify it. Okay, if I do something like, let's say int c is equal to 99 and I try to print c over here, giving me an error. Cannot resolve variable c. In short, for block scopes, what is happening over here is that over here that if you have in the block, if outside the block in that same function, the value is, it is already initialized, you cannot initialize it again. Okay, you cannot initialize it again. But if you initialize a value, if you create the value specifically for this block, it is only going to be used in this block. In even more simpler terms, values that are initialized in this block will remain in the block. Okay, values initialized in this block will remain in block. Okay, so C is initialized over here. It is not being used outside the block. Cannot use outside the block. But if some value is already initialized outside the block, initialized, okay, I'll just write it over here. Already initialized outside the block in the same method, hence you cannot initialize again. Okay, but you can change the value as well. But you can change, you cannot initialize again, but you can change the value definitely. So if I say a is equal to, let's say 100, and then I try to print over here, print a, printing 100. Question is, if I print it outside, is it still showing you, is it going to show 100 or 10? It's showing 100 only. So here, changing the original value. So here, basically reassign the original reference variable to some other value, because it's not creating a new one. In order to create a new one, I have to write int over here. So this is a proof. Very simple stuff, right? You don't confuse these things yourself. Over here, num is equal to 90, int a is equal to 10. Okay, here it's saying that a is already defined in the scope. Same reason that I gave for this, same reason for this. Okay, so in short, initialize those again. Okay, outside the stuff. Now let's look into shadowing. What do we mean by shadowing? Oops, new class. Public static void main. Let's say I say something like, if we create a variable that is, let's say, outside the in the higher level of the scope. So basically, function has its own scope and blocks have its own scope. For loop have the own scope. Other functions may have the own scope. But what if you define the variable over here? This will also have its own scope. This scope will be available to everything inside this scope. See, very simple. If you initialize something over here, it will be available to everything that is in this block of this. So it is initialized over here. So A is going to be available to everything that is inside the block of A. Similarly, X is going to be available to everything that is inside the block of X, this yellow thing that I have highlighted. Okay, and since I mentioned it previously, in order to use anything, you have to have it, in order to use anything in static, you have to have it static. So hence why I'm putting static over here. Why we are doing this and everything, we'll learn in object-oriented programming. Basically, the idea is that you don't want static. Static is basically object independent. So you cannot use object dependent things in object independent things. That is the reason we are adding static over here. Very simple explanation. Don't think much about it. Much more clearer it will be when we'll actually making entire classes to explain what static is. For now, just imagine you have to put anything that you're using inside the main function, you have to make it as static. Just understand this right now. Why we are doing it? We'll do it in object-oriented programming. Okay. So similarly, A was available everything inside the block of A. X will be available everything inside the block of X. I can do print X over here. Okay. Here if I create static void fun, print X over here, not giving me any error. Not giving me any error. Okay, I can add some value to this as well. 90 for example. I can have a value of 90. This is going to print 90. If I call fun, this is going to print 90, 90, 90. So what is shadowing in Java? So shadowing is basically, for example, if you have int x over here, okay, int x is equal to 90. So shadowing in Java is basically a practice of using two variables with the same name within the scope that overlaps. So this x variable has a scope of this entire block. Everywhere over here you can use x. What if I create another x over here, and I give this x a value of, let's say, x is equal to, int x is equal to, let's say, 40. And here I print x again. So this is going to basically print 90. This is now going to print 40. Someone just made a PR. Nice. Okay, this is going to print 90. This is going to print, made a PR. This is now going to print 40. Someone just made a PR. Nice. Okay, this is going to print 90. This is going to print 40. So basically, when you add another variable in the scope that overlaps, because this is going to have a scope of this, this is going to have a scope of this. So this scope is overlapping for this and this. The higher level scope, the variable with the higher level scope is hidden. So when you access x again, it is actually going to print this x and not this x. This will be shadowed at line 8. This is known as shadowing, because the lower level is overriding the upper level. So higher level is shadowed. Let's print this. It should print 90, 40, 90. 90, 40, 90. This is taking the original one. Then I introduce the local scope. Then it's printing the local scope. Then it's calling fun. Since this only is available in this block, this x is going to be available for this x. This x is basically this x. Obviously, we know it by now. This is going to be in this scope only. Okay, so this is known as shadowing. Cool. So basically, this is printing the value of the class variable x, which is this one. And this is basically, the class variable. This is known as the class variable. The class variable at line 4 is shadowed by this. Now, whatever value of x you like initially, and previously I took error. Initializing does not happen. Over here, it's not beginning at the point where this local scope begins. The shadowing begins actually when the local variable is declared. So if you try to access it over here, it will give an error. It's saying variable x might not have been initialized. Saying your initializing does not happen. You have to initialize it first, then use it. Okay, so scope actually begin to access the value between the declaration and the initialization in a Java class called var_args, okay, or something like that. And everything. And now let's look into something else known as variable length arguments. So what are variable length arguments? Let me create a Java class called var_args, okay, or something like that. So variable length arguments is basically when you create a method that takes a variable number of arguments. It is known as variable argument. So basically, what do we mean by it's known as basically a var_args method. So basically, what do we mean by var_args? What do we mean by variable length arguments? When we do not know how many inputs we are giving. Okay, for example, something like this: public, or like just static void fun. I'm going to pass, let's say, few integers over here. So if you want to pass some integers, you do not know how many integers you are passing, you just do dot v, or whatever name you want to give. I am giving v. This internally, it's taking it as an array of integers. Array is just a collection of integers. If you do it like string, it will take an array of string. If you do it like char, it will take a array of char. So basically, what I'm trying to do over here is that you can do it something like this. You can do something like, if I try to print this, I can say print, arrays.toString. We did it previously. I'll explain more about it when we do arrays. V. Let's try to run this function. I can say function is taking variable length arguments, so I can pass arguments I want. That is the beauty of variable length arguments. In the sum example and whatever, we were taking 2 arguments. Here it's saying you can take any number of arguments. Run this, it will print all of these and it will internally store it in an array. Okay, these are known as variable length arguments. Length is not constant, it varies towards the various of input that you will be providing. If I write string over here, it will give like error, like hey, it is asking for strings. Basically, there are more than 0. Currently, that is pretty much about it. Cool. Alrighty. Another thing that I want to share over here is that what if you want to have a mix of arguments? So basically, you want to have normal arguments as well and keyword arguments as well. So basically, in that case, you can do something like static void multiple arguments. So for example, you can add int a, int b, and then you can add something like int variable number of arguments. Okay, that is also totally possible. If you want to call this, you're basically going to do something like this. Multiple, I can add, if I add some, let's say, string over here. Okay, So I can say multiple 2 comma 3 comma. After that, it's going to take strings. So always note this order. If I'm saying A first, A should come first. B first, B should come first. Strings after that, strings after this. Strings are variable length arguments. Here in this case, I can add anything I like. Random. If I remove this, it will give error. It's saying
अच्छा
A should be integer, A is integer. B should be integer. It's taking this as a B argument. So you cannot skip anything like this. Okay, this is very important, the ordering. You cannot skip stuff like this. All right, you cannot also do something. Let's try something like this. Let's say in between I insert variable length arguments. That is also not allowed. Error is giving this a variable argument parameter must be the last in this list. Why? Because how would I know if this was integer? Okay, how would I know that when is B coming in? Because this can contain any number of arguments. How would I know when I should start for B? How would I know that? Hence, this is another rule. This should always come at the end. Variable length arguments always at the end. Let me tell you a little bit more about another concept that is known as function overloading. Okay, function overloading. What does it mean? Imagine you have two functions of the same name. Okay, static void function and another function you have of the same name function. Okay, it does not matter if like the return type is changed or whatever. Function loading basically happens two or more functions of the same name. They can exist if the parameters are different. Here if I'm writing int a and here I'm writing, let's say, string name, the errors are gone. And when I'm actually calling the function here, I'm saying call the function with a number, then it's going to call this function. When I'm saying call the function with a no, but it's actually got something like this. So there might be something like second one will run function to this one.
ऑलराइट ये मेथड ओवरलोडिंग में आता है पहले पढ़ा है मैंने आ, चलो ठीक है गाइस आज का स्ट्रीम रखते हैं इधर तक मेरे को आ रही है भयंकर नींद और थोड़ा थक चुका हूँ और देख लो भाई देख लो हाउ एम आई गेटिंग बॉल्ड डे बाय डे एनीवे तो आई वाज सेइंग साला एक व्यू कैसे अच्छा मैं नहीं बोला था करेक्ट तो ठीक है आज इतना ही रखते हैं कल हम फिर मिलेंगे सो आई साइन ऑफ और क्या ही बोलना है अभी 4:50 हो गया है शायद मैं भी इडली वड़ा खाने जाऊँ चलो ठीक है तो आई साइन ऑफ सी यू सायोनारा टेक केयर